In the first-century Roman world, survival was calculated by the coin. Every meal was weighed against the brutal realities of imperial taxation and extraction. The political landscape of Matthew chapter 14 begins with a dinner party. Herod Antipas hosts a lavish, deadly banquet for regional elites, a celebration concluding with the execution of John the Baptist. This is a silver Roman denarius. Under Roman occupation, elites hoarded agricultural output through crushing taxation, keeping the vast majority trapped at bare subsistence. Jesus initiates a meal in the wilderness that stands as a direct challenge to the systems governing Herod's table. Upon receiving the news of John's murder, Jesus withdraws. He intentionally prioritizes time to mourn the death of his kinsman, showing that even the Messiah required space for grief. This wilderness feeding replaces an empire of hoarding and death with a kingdom defined by abundance and compassion. This is the hazy, desolate shoreline of the Sea of Galilee. Jesus retreats from the urban centers to this isolated region to grieve and recharge. But the desperate population tracks his movements. Thousands abandon their villages, following him on foot to the remote Jordan River Delta. When he steps ashore, his privacy is gone. Yet, looking out at their vulnerability, he is moved by profound compassion. Modern political ideology often trains us to view large, needy populations as problems to be managed or outsourced. Jesus views them as people requiring immediate intervention. He wades directly into the crowd and begins healing their sick, addressing their physical brokenness firsthand. In the kingdom of heaven, compassion is an actionable mandate, triggered the moment human suffering is recognized. As the day fades into evening, a severe logistical crisis emerges. The location is completely desolate, and the massive crowd has nothing to eat. The text counts 5,000 men, but that metric excludes women and children. The actual population standing in that wilderness is likely closer to 27,000 people. The disciples assess the situation and present their solution: dismiss the crowd so they can go into the surrounding villages and buy their own food. Their logic defaults to the standard imperial marketplace economy. If the people are hungry, let them purchase their own survival. Jesus turns to his disciples and delivers a command that shatters their economic framework. You give them something to eat. This balance sheet reveals an impossible math problem. On the left, a starving population of 27,000. On the right, the disciples' total liquid assets: 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. Jesus engineers this crisis of absolute scarcity deliberately. He sets up the mathematical impossibility to force the disciples to confront their own inadequacy, pulling them directly into the process of the miraculous. This Byzantine floor mosaic depicts the raw materials of the miracle. The disciples surrender their meager assets, placing 5 loaves and 2 fish into Jesus' hands. This action defines stewardship, acknowledging that every resource belongs to its creator. Jesus takes the bread, looks up to heaven, and speaks a blessing. He publicly affirms God the Father as the true source of all provision. Before the bread can feed anyone, Jesus physically tears the loaves apart. In this system of distribution, the intact loaf is useless. The physical tearing is the prerequisite for reaching the thousands. For the disciples, this reveals that their meager resources must be fully surrendered and broken before they can be multiplied for the sake of the world. Jesus bypasses the opportunity to distribute the food himself. Instead, he places a small fraction of a broken loaf and a piece of sardine into the hands of each disciple. Each disciple stands before a massive, hungry population, holding only crumbs. They begin the physical execution of radical obedience, tearing the bread they have and passing it forward to the nearest person. The bread multiplied at the moment it left their hands. The physical volume increased as it was given away. The supply regenerated as the disciples moved row by row. Each act of distribution provided the next piece of bread. The miraculous occurs entirely in the hands of the person acting in radical obedience. Every person in the crowd ate until they were completely satisfied. This total, equitable satisfaction stands in contrast to the famine-inducing economy established by the Roman elites. In the aftermath, Jesus commands the disciples to gather the broken pieces. They fill exactly 12 baskets, leaving nothing to waste.
For Matthew's audience, that specific count carries theological weight.
The 12 baskets correspond to the 12 tribes of Israel. These leftovers demonstrate that the provision of Jesus is complete. The mathematics of human scarcity are entirely overwhelmed by the abundance of heaven. That historical reality demands a modern response. Radical obedience today involves surrendering whatever insufficient resources you hold to a purpose far beyond your own capability. When we see local or global suffering, our initial reaction is often to ask why God is not intervening. The text redirects that question back to the believer. Jesus issues a direct challenge. Why don't you give them something to eat? Stepping into the unknown with inadequate resources allows you to experience the miracle of partnering with God.